Imagine you're a scientist in 2024, armed with the most advanced laboratory equipment, molecular analysis tools, and decades of biochemical knowledge. Your mission? Create the perfect psychoactive compound using plants from the Amazon rainforest.
You'd need to screen thousands of plants, analyze their chemical components, understand complex enzyme interactions, and somehow figure out that you need to combine two completely different plants to bypass the human body's natural defenses.
It would take you years, maybe decades of research, millions in funding, and teams of experts working around the clock.
But here's what will blow your mind. Indigenous shamans figured this out over 3,000 years ago, without labs, without microscopes, without any understanding of modern chemistry.
How is that even possible?
Welcome back to The Quantum Soul. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most mind-bending mysteries that's making scientists question everything they thought they knew about human knowledge and consciousness.
We're talking about ayahuasca, the sacred brew that combines DMT-containing plants with natural MAO inhibitors to create what researchers are calling the most sophisticated pharmacological discovery in human history.
And the more scientists study this ancient combination, the more they're realizing that what happened in the Amazon thousands of years ago shouldn't have been possible according to our understanding of how knowledge is acquired.
Let's break down the impossibility of what we're dealing with here. The Amazon rainforest contains over 80,000 plant species. The chances of randomly combining the right plants to create a psychoactive brew?
Astronomically small. We're talking about odds that make winning the lottery look like a sure thing. Yet somehow, multiple indigenous cultures across the Amazon independently discovered the exact same combination.
And it's not just any combination. It's a precise biochemical hack that bypasses one of the most fundamental protective mechanisms in the human body.
Here's the science that's keeping researchers up at night. DMT, as we discussed in our last episode, is immediately destroyed by an enzyme called MAO when it enters your digestive system. It's like your body has a built-in security system specifically designed to keep this molecule from affecting your consciousness.
But the shamans discovered that certain plants contain compounds called beta-carbolines, natural MAO inhibitors, that basically turn off this security system, allowing DMT to enter your bloodstream and reach your brain.
The question that's haunting scientists isn't just how did they know? It's how did they know to look for this specific solution to this specific problem?
Dr. Dennis McKenna, one of the world's leading ethnobotanicists, puts it perfectly. The shamans say the plants told them. And the more we study this, the more we're wondering if that's not just metaphor.
Because here's where things get absolutely wild. When researchers interview shamans about how they discovered ayahuasca, they consistently give the same answer. The plant spirits taught us.
Now, as scientists, we're trained to dismiss this as folklore, right? But what if we're missing something fundamental about how consciousness interacts with the natural world?
Dr. Jeremy Narby, an anthropologist who spent decades studying indigenous knowledge systems, documented something that should make every scientist uncomfortable. Shamans routinely describe molecular-level biological processes with stunning accuracy, despite having no formal education in biochemistry.
They describe DNA as twin serpents. They talk about plant alkaloids in ways that perfectly match what we see under electron microscopes. And they navigate complex pharmacological interactions with precision that rivals our best laboratories.
So either these cultures developed advanced scientific methods that we don't recognize, or consciousness itself might be a far more sophisticated information-gathering system than we've ever imagined.
And that brings us to the research that's currently exploding in laboratories around the world. Scientists are finally taking ayahuasca seriously, and the results are, well, they're rewriting textbooks.
At Imperial College London, researchers using advanced neuroimaging are watching what happens to the brain during ayahuasca experiences. And what they're seeing is challenging fundamental assumptions about how consciousness works.
The default mode network, the brain system that maintains your sense of self, essentially goes offline. But instead of creating confusion, it seems to allow access to information and experiences that feel more real than ordinary reality.
Dr. Robin Carhart, leading this research, describes it as the brain's most honest state, as if ayahuasca removes filters that normally limit our perception of reality.
But here's what's really blowing minds in the scientific community: the shared experiences. People who've never met, from different cultures, different backgrounds, are reporting encounters with identical entities, identical landscapes, identical teachings.
If ayahuasca was just causing random hallucinations, we'd expect random individual experiences. But that's not what's happening. There's a consistency that suggests people might be accessing something real.
Dr. Rick Strassman documented this phenomenon in his DMT research. Participants described detailed encounters with intelligent beings, often described as machine elves or geometric entities, that seemed to exist independent of the individual's imagination.
And these entities weren't just random visions. They were interactive, communicative, and often provided information that the participants couldn't have known beforehand.
One case that particularly intrigued researchers involved a mathematician who, during an ayahuasca session, was shown complex geometric proofs by these entities. When he returned to normal consciousness, he worked out the mathematics and discovered they were not only correct, but represented advanced concepts he'd never encountered.
How do you explain that scientifically? How does a psychoactive compound give someone access to mathematical knowledge they don't possess?
And it's not just mathematics. Musicians report learning complex compositions, artists describe techniques they'd never studied, and healers gain insights into medical conditions they've never encountered.
Which brings us to the therapeutic applications that are revolutionizing mental health treatment. Clinical trials are showing that ayahuasca can treat severe depression, PTSD, and addiction with success rates that traditional therapies can't match.
But here's what's particularly fascinating. The therapeutic effects seem to come not from the chemical action alone, but from the specific insights and experiences people have during the sessions.
It's as if ayahuasca provides access to a form of therapy that exists outside the normal boundaries of psychology, a kind of consciousness-based healing that addresses trauma at levels we're only beginning to understand.
Dr. Gabor Mate, working with ayahuasca therapy, describes it as the most powerful healing modality I've encountered in 40 years of medical practice. The substance seems to allow people to confront and resolve psychological issues that have resisted conventional treatment for decades.
And the neurological evidence supports this. Brain scans show that ayahuasca experiences create new neural pathways, literally rewiring the brain in ways that persist long after the substance has left the system. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of ayahuasca research is what it suggests about the nature of consciousness itself. If people can access information, experiences, and healing that seem to come from outside their individual minds, what does that mean for our understanding of who we are?
Are we individual brains generating consciousness, or are we somehow receivers tuning into a broader field of awareness that connects all living things?
Quantum physicists are starting to take this seriously. Dr. Henry Stapp at UC Berkeley suggests that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, not just an emergent property of complex brains.
And it's not just mathematics. Then ayahuasca might not be creating exotic experiences. It might be removing the barriers that normally keep us from perceiving the deeper reality that's always been there.
The implications are staggering. If consciousness is indeed a universal field that we can access under certain conditions, then everything we think we know about knowledge, creativity, healing, and human potential needs to be reconsidered.
But here's where we need to pump the brakes and talk about the shadow side of this incredible substance. Because with great power comes great responsibility, and ayahuasca is definitely not something to approach lightly.
The rise of ayahuasca tourism has led to numerous cases of psychological trauma, dangerous interactions with medications, and even deaths. This is not a recreational drug. It's a powerful tool that can cause serious harm in the wrong hands.
Traditional shamans spend decades learning to work with these substances safely. They understand that ayahuasca can surface suppressed traumas, trigger latent psychological conditions, and create experiences that can be overwhelming for unprepared minds.
That's why legitimate research is so crucial. We need to understand both the incredible potential and the serious risks of these substances if we're going to integrate them safely into modern therapeutic practice.
And the research is accelerating rapidly. The FDA has granted breakthrough therapy designation to psilocybin and MDMA for PTSD. DMT and ayahuasca research is following close behind.
We're potentially looking at a revolution in mental health treatment that could help millions of people who haven't responded to conventional therapies. But it has to be done right with proper preparation, supervision, and integration.
Because what we're really talking about here isn't just medicine. It's a fundamental shift in how we understand consciousness, reality, and human potential.
And that shift is accelerating. Every month brings new studies, new discoveries, new questions that challenge our basic assumptions about what it means to be human. Which brings us to the question that's going to haunt you until our next episode. If ayahuasca can provide access to information and experiences that seem to come from outside individual consciousness, what does that say about the boundaries of the self?
Are we separate individuals having private experiences? Or are we nodes in a vast network of consciousness that we're only beginning to understand?
And here's the really mind-bending part. Quantum physicists are discovering that at the most fundamental level of reality, particles that have never interacted can somehow influence each other instantaneously across vast distances.
It's called quantum entanglement, and it suggests that separation itself might be an illusion. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, then shared ayahuasca experiences aren't just possible, they're inevitable.
Next episode, we're diving into the cutting-edge research that's exploring these quantum connections. We'll reveal how scientists are using quantum physics to understand consciousness, and why some researchers believe that psychedelic experiences might be our first glimpse of quantum reality.
Plus, we'll share the mind-blowing experiments where people in different locations are having synchronized experiences with DMT, and what this means for our understanding of space, time, and the nature of reality itself.
You'll also hear about the classified research being conducted by government agencies into the potential military applications of consciousness-altering substances, and why some insiders are warning that we're on the verge of a new kind of warfare.
Right now, you should see the next episode appearing on your screen. Quantum Consciousness, the Science of Shared Reality.
What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about the boundaries between minds, the nature of information, and the possibility that consciousness itself might be the fundamental fabric of reality.
Don't stop now. We're about to explore the most radical theories in modern science, backed by evidence that's impossible to ignore.
Click that next episode and continue this incredible journey with us, because what we're about to reveal next isn't just changing science, it's changing what it means to be human.